courses we receive during this semester. All the light of the Holy Spirit to understand who His man, who we are. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, pray for us. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So it is the last class and the last part of the chapter 14. Last class we studied the origin of the human soul. Now we try to study today, reflect on the origin of the humankind, on the human species. How man arrived to exist. To have is not a scientific class, it's not a class of geology or anthropology, scientific, it is metaphysics. And we try to understand in a metaphysical approach. But to give us some advice, some reflection on that, we must use the discovery of science. So it is a problem important to know where we are coming from, because the origin of what we are give also a meaning to what we are, you know, who we are. Because, you know, if you are the son of a king, then you are called to become a king, you know. If I am the son of a monkey, of an ape, then I should normally continue to be an ape, you know. So how can we explain that we can come from a lower life or lower state of perfection to arrive to a superior level of perfection. For example, from non-intelligent to intelligent. Sometimes I scandalize my students when I say I have no problem to learn that my grandfather be a monkey or ape. I have no problem with that, because I am not a monkey. It's supposed it will be like that. The difference is that I am intelligent, he is not intelligent. I have a spiritual soul, he has not. So that is the problem. The problem of the origin. Well, many interpretations. And the prevailing interpretation today is the materialistic approach of evolution, inspired by Darwin. In fact, Darwin was not himself an atheist, he was not a materialist, he was a good Anglican practicing his faith. But at the time, in the 19th century, positivism, that was atheistic or agnostic, took that and insist on the absence of finality. In fact, the problem is that, the absence of finality, in the absence also of efficient cause. In fact, when we are in the material environment, like in Marxism, for example, everything is matter, and there is nothing else. Nothing else is zero. Nothing outside of matter. So I must explain evolution through matter. Only from matter, and the end is matter, and the beginning is matter, and between is matter. Everything is matter. That is materialistic approach. And unfortunately, in the 19th century, with positivism, they were in that area of thinking. Matter is the unique reality. Okay? So a problem also is about the dating of the origin of humankind. For someone, it is 4,000 years before Christ, and 2,000 after, those 6,000 years. Well, that interpretation does not fit with science today. We know that it takes millions of years. According to the most recent discovery, at least 3.5 million exist from 3 million. But what is 3 million years in comparison of the formation of the Earth? It's only a few minutes. A few minutes. We can say that human life on Earth is very recent. 3 million years in the history of the universe is only tic-tac. It's very, very recent. Okay? But the problem is how we can arrive from that pre-existent matter, pre-existent to man, before man, and suddenly we arrive to man. That is important to know what is our origin. So the theory of Darwin is almost universally accepted as a model. The problem in that theory of Darwin is not the fact of evolution. Jean-Paul II is very clear, and even Benedict XVI also, both are very clear. We cannot now today delete, if you want, erase, suppress the fact of evolution, because it's clear that we find trace of life in rocks, and those rocks are there for millions and millions and millions of years. So the problem is how. It's not the fact. The fact is there. The problem is the interpretation. Can matter by itself can produce life? That's the theory of materialism. We saw that last week, when for Marx, for example, or Lenin, I think, the thought is the secretion of mind, that everything must be explained by matter. Or is that evolution, passage from non-life to life, and from life to intellectual life, is made by the lower being, or is made by a superior being that is not in the universe, but above. Transcendent, we call God. That means creation. So there are two main interpretations. Either it is coming from matter, and matter explains everything, or so the lower can produce the higher, and the other is a creative a designer, an organizer, because in fact it is evolution is organization, and where there is organization, there is a designer. There is an intelligent being. And that is the problem. Someone accepts that, someone denies that. So, the problem is the explanation. And Darwin gave an explanation to the natural selection. And also the role of time. Time is almost a factor of explanation of evolution. Well, if you go to next page, page 17, the evolution is itself trans-scientific, because it is unbasedly philosophical in both scope and nature. In fact, the problem is that scientists, when they interpret evolution, they are no more scientists, they become philosophers. But they don't want to say that. But in fact, when they say, for example, all that evolution is provoked, is guided, organized by chance. All that is the fruit of chance. When they say that, they are philosophers, because can they measure chance? Can they observe chance? They cannot. So it is a philosophical interpretation. And when the people use Darwin to explain that, they are not scientists, they are philosophers. And when they say everything is at random, everything is coming from matter, they are philosophers. When Karl Marx, for example, Lenin or Karl Marx or communists, Marxists say everything comes from matter, when they say that, they are not scientists, they are philosophers. Because they interpret something they cannot measure. And the problem of evolution is not on the fact. It's almost impossible, not impossible, because some people deny evolution even today. But the fact is so obvious in science. In fact, Jean-Paul II wrote a letter, he said, truth cannot contradict truth. The truth of science and the truth of theology, of Bible, is coming from the same source. God created the world. And what is doing a scientist? A scientist is supposed to try to understand how the world functions. He cannot give the finality. If a scientist gives the finality or gives the ultimate cause at the beginning, he is a philosopher. And one of the problems, according to my opinion, in evolution is the confusion between science and philosophy. Philosophy is a confusion. In fact, it is extrapolation. They extrapolate. They often think outside of their capacity of observation and of experience. Even when the Marxists say, and there is only one reality, matter, when he said that, they cannot prove that. It is an affirmation, it is a postulate, it is a dogma of faith. They say there is no faith, but to become a good Marxist, you must have a great faith that everything is matter. And when you, Mr. X, when you love your wife, all that is purely material. When you study mathematics, all that is purely material, you know. That is almost, it is faith, huh? Philosophical faith, huh? If you want, okay? So the origin of the word evolution, huh? Ex volvere, huh? Volvere, that means to turn, huh? To roll, to turn, ex, outside, huh? Volvere, to turn from outside, huh? So life is coming from outside of what is before. So life, according to them, coming from matter. So matter can produce life. Or if you want, quantity can produce quality. But we cannot accept. Huh? We cannot give what we don't possess. If matter does not possess life, how is it possible that matter can organize, by chance, organize life? It's a nonsense. But if I say that at some university, I will be kicked out very rapidly. Because it's, you know the movie, 2-3 years ago, there was a movie made by 3 scientists, and they put in jeopardy the theory of Darwin. They say, you know, they were not creationists, but they were asking, telling that we cannot explain only through evolution, only from the dogma of chance and natural selection. You know, I mean, the 3 were kicked out of their university because they were not agreeing with the dogma of Darwinian explanation of evolution. So the origin of the word, okay, we saw that. The term number 543. The term clearly takes the first meaning from the phenomenon of growth in the development of plants and flowers. So that is a fact. And the phenomenon of growth, it was studied, you remember, by Hans Drich and Claude Bernard. They are scientists, biologists, and they say if there is growth, there is organization, there must be a principle of organization. We come back to that, principle of organization, anteliki, remember that? There must be a finality, anteliki. You know, telos means end, finality, finality. That means if something exists, there must be a finality. In fact, it's the general principle of sufficient reason. If there is a phenomenon, there must be a sufficient reason at the beginning and at the end. Efficient cause and final cause. And if there is organization, the agent who does that must be intelligent. There is no organization outside of an intelligent, efficient cause. So that is very important. And all science today, all biology, and by the way, the biology we know today is much more developed and structured and valuable than the biology Mr. Darwin knew. But it's interesting, at the same time, Darwin was interpreting evolution, that means life can come from matter. At the same time in Paris, Louis Pasteur, remember? Louis Pasteur proved exactly the contrary. No spontaneous generation. That means nothing comes from nothing. Life comes from life. Life cannot come from matter. You open the door of your closet and you see your shoes. And suddenly you see, oh, beautiful little mice, oh, they are so Mickey Mouse. But how generous, spontaneous. You know, there were no more mice, and suddenly in my shoes, my mother, my shoes, engender, produce, I don't know, mice. That was the theory. Pasteur was totally proving that there's nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. Life comes from life, and life comes from non-life. At the same time, Mr. Darwin says that life comes from non-life, you know. Interesting. And Pasteur said that after Darwin, after Darwin, about 10 years. So, in fact, Pasteur destroyed the theory of Darwin. But, you know, we want to hear only what is convenient to us, no? We are selective in our information. So, in fact, Paris and London, they are not far. Only a little 35 kilometers of water. But, you know, if we have a theory, we want to impose our theory. And what happened, positivists, especially French positivists with Kant, they were very happy of the theory of Darwin. Because he was explaining everything from, now I know outside being like a god or like a spirit or like a creator, you know. There is a lot of philosophy underlying that, you know. Don't forget, positivism was a philosophical current, not only a scientific current, and they want to impose. And that continues today. Okay, I go to, what is the explanation? From a form of change, passing from some lower level of reality to a superior level of reality. From non-life to life, or from life without intelligence to life with intelligence. That is the two steps. The first step, from non-life to life, from matter to life, plant, trees, fish, etc. And finally, from the sentient animal to the human nature. Okay? So, and the theory also is continuity in growth. But if there is growth, that's the question. If there is growth, there must be organization. When there is progress, what is the characteristic of progress? When something is well organized. When it is a disorder, can we progress in disorder? No. We have to. At war, for example, you play football, you play soccer. Now, how can you win when you are organized together, you play with one another? If each one wants to play its own way, you will never win. Okay? So the transformism, next paragraph, applied to a sense of species. The species go from inferior level to a superior through, not through, we call leap, jump. So then leap up, like that, leap. The problem is how we can explain that leap. How we can explain that from mineral we arrive to have living little creature, microbe or germs or insects, and finally animal. And how we can apply that from animal we arrive to man, intelligent. Well, I go to page 18. So the philosophical consequences of that theory. The position of Darwin. Here we have the position of Darwin. So the greater proceeds from the lesser. For life is superior to organic reality, is superior to non-organic reality. Whether strictly by chance, here you have the summary, or by system, some internal design in nature, something organized, design in nature. And this development process gradually works itself out through the length passage of time, million of years. So, you know, time is very important also. So chance, a kind of design, but the design does not come from outside, it comes from within. That means spontaneously matter gives life. And spontaneously, animal life produce intelligence, you know. So the theory is inviting by its universality and simplicity, you know, but provoke very serious question. Because no explanation has been presented that enlightens us to the manner and how that evolution is realized. But the fact of evolution, let us accept that. If you don't accept that, you can go to heaven, no problem. It's not a dogma of faith, but it is scientifically now a hypothesis, more than, like John Paul II said, more than probable. That means it is a fact. But the problem is not in the fact, it's the interpretation, the explanation. So you see, time is almost considered as some kind of transforming agent. Always it is time that is called upon to effect the passage from inferior form to superior form. So time is like an agent. Time is like the efficient cause. Can time be efficient cause? No. If you take 2 hours to make your examination instead of 30 minutes, it is the longer time provoke your success or examination. It's long. Yes, I took 2 hours, 3 hours. The other took 35 minutes. It is because I take more time that I succeeded. No. Time is not a factor of success. But we have the impression in evolution is an important factor of time. Okay? So the simplicity of that theory attract, that's at the page 18 at the bottom, appears reasonable as long as one skirts the basic issues of differentiation of species. And of course the simplicity, universality. So that problem, that the approach, materialistic approach of the Darwinian evolution is the most prevalent in the majority of universities in the world now. So it's difficult to teach many universities and to teach not creationism, but to teach evolution with a creative aspect, under a creative aspect. Because we cannot explain by matter the jump from non-life to life, or we cannot explain without external power on the passage from non-intelligence to intelligence. Okay? How non-intelligent being can produce intelligence. Imagine, even you have millions of monkeys laughing together. They will give you the reason why they laugh. They will become intelligent. Number does not make quality. Quantity does not make quality. But don't forget, for materialists, quantity produces quality. You know? In fact, that is important to see. Philosophy is at the basic foundation of every system. Political system, economic system are based on philosophy. Even why? Because philosophy is the way we think, and we act according to what we think. Okay? So next page, page 19. So the recent discovery of genetics, as we saw last class, the discovery of chromosomes, discovery of DNA, all that, challenge the Darwinian interpretation of evolution. In fact, Darwin wrote a text in which he said, if there is more complex reality, my theory will be challenged and will be in difficulty. Because he knew very little in comparison with what we discover since about 50 years, 40 years, that the human being is a very well organized being. Every plants, animals are very well organized. They are made with cells, and all that organization cannot be explained only by matter. if you put, for example, here on the ground bricks, wood, cement, and you say, okay, let us wait, they will become a house. You laugh at that, but it's exactly the situation. You know, we have matter, and suddenly we say, hey, okay, now, can matter become alive? And can life by itself become thinking? Put 10 million monkeys, you have not one intelligent. The quantity cannot make the quality. But if in your philosophy, at the beginning, you affirm that quantity produces quality, of course, you are able. But that is materialistic interpretation. And can we reduce that to matter? That is a dogma of faith. Now, I told that Marxist, communist, materialist, capitalist or communist, they are great believers. They believe in the power of matter, like they believe in the power of money. Okay, so we have to take care of, to take account of those discoveries. You know, why we studied that last class? When we study all the, how the cell is functioning, is a marvel. One cell is a marvel. All that is the fruit of chance, imagine. Go to a casino in Las Vegas and try to win 5 times in the same evening. What will happen? The bouncer will come to you. We say, wait a minute, how is it possible you win like that? You know, a few years ago, the student in MIT in Massachusetts, MIT, they make a scientific studies of the gambling in Las Vegas. They studied that scientifically with computer, with statistics, with probability. And with their conclusion, they went to Las Vegas, and they won, and they won, and they won. And of course, the police came and said, hey, guys.
No more.
They were, in fact, they discovered the law of probability. When you know that, you know how to deal with that. It was a scientific way of playing, of gambling. But it was no more gambling for them. For them, it was rational, you know. And they were kicked out, and they have a big problem, those scientists, you know. So that the chance cannot be, chance contain no intelligence, no finality. It's impossible that chance is organized. If chance is organized, there's no more chance, no? I have a confrère, when I was a young teacher. You know, he have a trick. When he wanted that the student win a competition, because he was a good student, he wrote his name on every paper. And he asked the student, take a name. Of course, he was sure that the name would be the name he chose, you know. That is not changed. It's preview. Huh? But imagine, we have the same DNA in our trillions of cells. And we have 7 billion people on Earth with their own organism. All that is the fruit of chance. All that is the same as the trees. Now, trees are losing their leaves. Flowers are dying. And we are sure that in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, there will have new leaves on the tree. We are sure of that. And that is the fruit of chance. No. Regularity, organization, programmation, express and intelligence, a desire. The problem is that they don't want to recognize there is a desire. And when we speak about desire, they say that is theology, that is philosophy, is not science. Of course, it's not science. The same thing when they say chance is the explanation, it's not science. It is a kind of philosophy. Okay? So the discovery, okay, I spoke about that. I go to page 20. Well, we spoke about that also. Now the greater comes from the less. I don't want to. 5.9. So a reject of the spontaneous emergence of life from non-life. So the actual knowledge of the complexity of the cell renders any theory of the spontaneous emergence of life from non-life as simply unworthy of a serious credence. That means, we cannot accept that as intelligent. But scientists continue. In the Bible it is written, and God will confound the wisdom, the knowledge of the learner. So, and after they have the complexity of the cell. Now, okay, so those discovery of biology provoke on many scientists, many evolutionists, a kind of the desire to know better, because not everyone was stupid to say everything comes from chance. So they were not satisfied with the theory of Darwin. Of course, Darwin did not know the composition of cells, did not know the chromosome, did not know nothing about DNA, nothing. Now we know, and we know that all that organization is impossible without an organizer. Give him the name we want. I call him designer, organizer, programmer, or God. But when they say, oh yes, it's programmer, but the programmer is matter. Matter is programming matter. No, this is nonsense, but they have no choice. They have to stay between, inside of material approach. So there is a theory, page 21, we call the theory of the punctuated equilibrium. Or some scientists, they say we cannot accept the theory of the total explanation of Darwin. Okay, we are faithful to Darwin, but we cannot accept because Darwin did not know everything. So they have a new theory we call punctuated equilibrium. Punctuated, a point, an instant. That means, for example, you have a long time, the same stage, and suddenly you have a punctuated. And not a long time, punctuated. So the evolution, instead of living little by little by little like that, it is by macro mutation. The theory of Darwin is micro mutation. Little mutation. Macro, huge, big mutation. That is the new theory. Now prevailing more and more. But the explanation is not the desire, Okay. But it's something that means the theory is not exactly the same. No, there is a kind of evolution in the theory of evolution. In evolution, in the theory of evolution. Okay? So you have some quotation about that. I go to page 22. 5.11. Here, in fact, we have the same position as we discovered with Mr. Ansdrich and Claude Bernard, biologist and German and French biologist. Claude Bernard, French, and Ansdrich, German. He was the teacher of Jacques Maritain, told that to you. And for us, Jacques Maritain is important because he is a neo-Thomist. In fact, he is the one as a layman to resurrect St. Thomas in the first part of the 20th century, neo-Thomism. And they present the theory of Aristotle and St. Thomas, but not word by not at the letter. They make people understand it, the language people of the time, not the Middle Age. Okay? So here I read the text. The uniquely perplexing aspect of the phenomenon of living thing does not allow us to reduce vital activity to physical and chemical reaction. You remember when they make experimentation, they discover the characteristic of life, spontaneity, immanence, growth, and reproduction, assimilation, all that. They say we cannot reduce that only to chemical reaction. We cannot only reduce that to physical reaction. There is something more than that. And they give the name, the principle. They said there must be a principle, a principle of activity. A principle of activity. They call that the entelechy. They did not give the name soul, because to give the name soul is a philosophical term, no? Or a theological term. They give the name entelechy. But entelechy, you must be very attentive to that word. The center of the word, I told that to you many times, is telos. A telos means end. So, when they affirm that, what they affirm? They affirm there is more than matter. There is a finality. If there is a finality, there is a finality not at the end only. You know, remember the end is not at the end. Huh? The end is at the beginning. It's not a joke what I said, yeah? It's the end. Okay, you want to go, you are in Cromwell here, and you want to go to New York. New York is the end. But when you are leaving Cromwell, New York is in your mind, no? Huh? The end is in your action, and the end is continually with you. So if there is a finality, if I affirm a finality, the consequence of that, that means if there is finality, finality is eliminating everything. That means finality is at the beginning. For example, the man who did that desk here has a finality, no? In that finality, he did not have at the end. He had that when he began to take the wood and to work on the wood, he had the finality. So that you know, that sometimes we have some word they say, oh, entelechy. Very serious. Because if you accept entelechy, you deny materialistic approach to evolution. If you accept there is a finality in organic reaction of the living, if you accept that, you accept there is something more than matter. We cannot be only purely materialist. Matter is a reality, but it is informed by a finality. And you remember also that, we said that in logic also, the end is linked with the form. The end is linked with the form. That means if the end is there, everything which is informing, it corresponds to that end. For example, when the man here did this desk, he has the idea of a desk. And when he was working, he was all the time putting in the desk, in the wood, the idea of desk. So it's the same for a living. The living, if there is a telos, if there is a finality, that means that finality is soaking, I would say, every moment, every time, from the beginning to the end. The beginning, when the thing begins to exist, the finality is there. When the thing is acting, moving, it is elevated by the finality to the end. You know, the finality, entelechy. And for us, the entelechy, we call that the soul. Understood? Because the soul is the principle of life. Life implies an end, imply a beginning. And at the beginning, if the soul is spiritual, at the beginning, so if the end is spiritual, at the beginning, the first must be spiritual. That means in the first cell there will be human life. We said that last week. Okay, I come back to the text here. The next paragraph. The mysterious constraint that controls the chemical and physical laws express that there is something more than only matter. Here there are many important words. Control, harnesses, constraint, directs, fulfill a particular highly special function that impels and compels our attention. And we arrive to discover that all that organization cannot be explained, understood without an end, without the principle of organization. We are constrained to arrive to an efficient cause. In that efficient cause, having a final cause also, that it cannot be found in the matter, in the material reality. Okay? Hierarchy, etc. I go to the bottom of the page, the last paragraph, very, very important. Such control comprises the central problem of the origin of life. The central problem. Because it is only through such control that diverse aggregates of matter, which probably merely obeyed elementary physical laws, first begin to unify and direct them to enter into the new form of behavior, which is at once collective and functional. That partition, Mr. Thorpe expressed clearly that evolution cannot be made by chance. Evolution necessitates, requires a desire, require an intelligent desire. Not a desire is necessarily intelligent. And desire must have at the same time an end and the way to be able to realize that. And for us, it is the creative act, the creative act of God, creation. Okay? Now, page 23, so the reject of Darwin as theory as a pure chance. We cannot accept no more chance. How we can explain everything by chance? Impossible. Impossible. Okay? So you can read that text, Mr. Dot, and you go to the bottom of the page, 5.13.3. The DNA molecule cannot itself be the fortuitous result of a random mutation. And just after that, there must be already a program in existence, guiding and directing. So here, everything is leading us to deny the theory of evolution by chance. And the last paragraph, in short, the life, non-life hypothesis, life from non-life hypothesis, is wantonly lacking in scientific as well as a logical right. Today, if we know biology, we can deny that there is a necessity for a desire, and there is nothing made by pure chance. Okay, so page 24. So I told you that they are more scientists today are more critical in regard of the theory of Darwin, not the whole theory, but the aspect of chance. So they are more and more critical about that, and also the long time to realize something and some being. And page 24 at the bottom, you have a criticism by a biologist, Pierre Grass. So in fact, it is taking again the criticism I spoke to you about that since the beginning of the class. And if you go page 25, the fourth criticism, it is no certitude of the work of natural selection, contradicted by geological fact. So, the geological record does not show evolutionary change, but the opposite. That means we have some ground on Earth, there is no sign of life. In some ground, they have sign of life. Some rocks, for example, contain proof of life, and some rocks don't contain that. For example, we call that the Cambrian and the Precambrian. And the Precambrian is what we call the Laurentian Shield. Laurentian Shield. Well, for those who know geography, it is in Canada. So Canada is the oldest part of the whole world, because in the rock of the Laurentian, you have Quebec here, Hudson Bay, and you have here the United States. So the Laurentian is that here. are here. And those mountains don't contain any trace of life. So that means at the beginning there was only pure matter. There was no life. And if you go, we call that the pre-Cambrian. Pre-Cambrian. Why? Because the Cambrian discovered in the Jura, in France, Jurassic, Jura. We call the Cambrian. It was considered as the oldest, but the Cambrian contains a little fossil, little trace of life, but not in the Laurentian Mountain. In the Laurentian Mountain, there is no life in the rock, no trace of life. You know, I mean, there was a time there was absolutely no life on Earth. Okay, bon. Conclusion. He concludes there is no so much a shred of evidence to suggest that such mutation alter the species itself. And just after that, 5.18, he asks why it is that so many thoughtful people continue to abide the traditional evolution theories. When, that sentence is very important, when its premises have never been scientifically established as a coherent system. So why? Because it is, it is an enduring aesthetic attraction. In fact, the theory of Darwin attracted many people, many scientific, especially my interpretation for me, it is because of the influence of positivism. Positivism limited scientists to accept as reality only when they can measure, they can observe. You know? No, I go to the origin of humankind because it's the central question. So, human life form, because what is interesting for us is not that only the passage from non-life to life, but from life of people of being non-intelligent to man. That is for us a big problem, a central problem. So when we look at a man as a living being, the unique prowess of man, you know, when we compare man to any other animal, man is transcendent. Man has a capacity, because of his intelligence, to adapt everywhere on Earth. Not a single animal can do that. Dinosaurs disappear. All those disappear, man does not disappear. At the same circumstances, man continues to live. Why? Because of his intelligence, he can adapt. You know, take a lion, put it at the North Pole with Santa Claus. The poor lion will die. Santa Claus continues to live in Canada, northern. He put a bear, a polar bear in Cameroon. The poor polar bear, after 2 weeks, he will die. He will sweat so much, he will die. Man can live everywhere. Men live in the desert, men live on water. We have villages built on water. Men live in high mountains, men live in valleys, everywhere. He lives at the foot of volcanoes. Man is able to adapt. Yes, some power, how we can explain that, you know? How we can explain that. So, next paragraph, 6.1.3. So the quasi-impossibility that human being emanates from random. It is zero. So I go to 6.2.1. Too much attention given to anatomical similarity. Why we were so preoccupied by searching our ancestor? Are they fish? Are they? Finally, they say, oh no, it's monkeys. It is how do we say that? Orangutan, or chimpanzee. But in fact, we were attracted only by the physical. We forgot the psychological also. Because when we compare, we should compare with the whole body, the whole. We compare only with the body, with the blood, with the organs. Of course, we have the same organ. We have a heart, we have kidneys, but we have something they don't have. We are intelligent. We progress. We all say they are intelligent, they speak. Yeah, they speak. The language is very, 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 very little. Imagine the number of words you know. And you study English, you study Vietnamese, you study Latin, you study French, you study... I have a brother, companion in my studies, a young Polish, I told that to you, Polish Palatine, 33 years old. He spoke fluently Russian, Polish, Russian, German, French, English, Spanish, Italian. He knew Hebrew, he knew Latin, he knew Greek. 33 years old. You know? I don't think a chimpanzee can do that. He can sit to his wife, yum, 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 yum. No. You know, today, why some people, they consider animal as human being and human society? Because they are materialist. Materialist, because there is no essential difference between an animal and a man. They don't accept that the rationality put us outside of the species we call irrational animals. Yes, brother.
Yes, have you ever heard the quote that like man shares 98% of his DNA with apes?
Yes, I know. But we don't have all the same thing. And secondly, don't forget also, DNA is material.
Well, an additional comment to that is man also shares about 50% of his DNA with bananas.
With bananas. And we are made with 90% of water. Huh? So, now, what makes the difference is not the body. Unfortunately, they study the body. Think about Hitler. Huh? When they study the skull and they say, oh, you are Aryan, you are a good man. Yeah, you are not Aryan, you have to put to be burned, to be put into smoke, in the gas chamber room. Okay. Well, I don't discuss the problem of the life on Earth. For me, it's a waste of time. Well, of course, many want to prove that life exists elsewhere, to confirm that life comes from matter, you know. Life comes from water. Okay, but I don't want to. But I want to say a word before. It is about. Yes, go on page 30. And the age of man. Okay. Well, now we know that the age of man is very important. But discover now. Man does not descend from apes. In fact, now it's proved because the recent, maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, discovery in Tanzania, in Lake Victoria, and they discovered that the old men, 3 million years, walk like a man today, the same thing. And they discover a skeleton of a body very well conserved, and discovered that that body has the same characteristic as we have today. So that means, and the theory is not, we don't descend from the monkey, or we don't ascend, because sometimes they say man is descending from the monkey, but the monkey is climbing the tree, is ascending the tree. No, we are not monkey, we are not apes. The theory today is we have a common ancestor. Okay, no problem. But a part of the group coming from that ascended, and the other descended. Those who are intelligent, they can ascend, they can progress. And those who are not intelligent, they are caused little by little to disappear. You know, sometimes they say, oh, species disappear because of man. That is not true. Of course, man can be the cause of the disappearance of some species. But the history of the earth, many species disappeared because they were not able to adapt. Because they were not intelligent. It's interesting to see that animals in difficult situations are called to die. Man in difficult situation is able to find a solution. When a big whale, super big whale, is taken in the nets of a fisherman, the poor whale is condemned to death. It cannot by itself find a solution. if man doesn't come to cut the net, the poor whale will die. Even if it's a huge, huge whale. But man can have solution in every difficult situation, because that is the difference. And I like that theory, not from only one line. My grandfather apes, and today Homo. No, man, no. I prefer we have a common ancestor, maybe. No problem. I have no problem. But one were intelligent, the other were not intelligent. That is, and that we have a confirmation by what we discovered in. So that page 32, discovery of authentic human footprint. Read that attentively. I don't have time. It is the discovery to prove that man had the same gait, that he walked the same way, he was erected like that, he's not one move, like that, no? You understand, huh? He was not, there is a movie in The Simpsons, we see the first Simpson, and after that you arrive to Homer, but no, he was not like that. As soon as man was intelligent, he was like that. He was not like that. With the, he was erected. And the way he walked was the same way, and the form of his feet are the same form. Why did we know that? Because he was, in the time there was a volcanoes, and he walked on the ground, and that became solid, and we have not a trace of that. A very, very important discovery. So you can read that. On page 34, conclusion. From the purely anthropological point of view, the anatomical structure of the hominid, the old man, permitting him to walk erect, to think. Why we think? Because we discover some tools, some trace of his presence. Was itself the result of a dynamic internal code orchestrating the anatomical structure itself. Of course, we don't speak about soul. When we speak about orchestrating a code, that needs some desire, put that. It's not I change that the code arrive, you know. Okay. So, but the theory of point, I go in the middle of the page. They recognize the impossibility of reconciling Darwin's original views with the emergence of emerging pantheological and paleological facts discovered in Victoria Lake, coupled with the growing realization that the lifespan of planet Earth has been too brief to accommodate a painstakingly slow development of living life form. That means we cannot explain the evolution according to Darwin with a long evolution when we compare the age of the planet and the age of man also. So they recognize the impossibility. According to this view, the advance in life form is explosive, sudden, and very large. So today and that is join a theory of another one. It's Lamarck. I don't have time to speak about that. Lamarck was opposed to Darwin because he said, you know, there is a finality in the animal. For example, why a giraffe has a long neck? So that according to Darwin, the animal grow at random. Someone has a long leg, short leg, long feet, long leg, and a day an animal with a long leg, you say, why do I have that? Oh, it's useful to eat leaves at the top of trees. And the bird with long legs, oh, it's useful to walk in the marshes. No, the finality comes before. And now people come back to Lamarck as explanation. That means, according to Lamarck, there is a finality. But you know, he was rejected. Why? Because positivism will not accept that. You know, if we put finality, that means there must be a designer. We come back all the time to the designer, the organizer. Okay, so you can read that one. And page 36, I finish by that. In the middle, conclusion. we may justifiably conclude recent development in the area of microbiology anthropology are most consonant with a theistic view. That means they allow to affirm that God intervened, theistic God, which assign the origin and development of living thing by a divine creative act, whereby non-living matter is first organized and oriented toward the higher synthesis of a dynamically functional and creative unity. That is the theory taught by Teilhard de Chardin, Jesuit, the famous Teilhard de Chardin. He was a great scientist, and it was, he said, yes, evolution is a fact, but we have to realize that evolution cannot act by itself, must be some factor, some efficient cause. Of course, the efficient cause of life and of intelligence is God. Okay. So the human cannot arise successfully out of the ashes of non-living form or inferior living form. The analogous breakdown in the logic of classical evolutionary theory and the unsupported claim of the punctuated equilibria theory lend further support to the view taken earlier that the human cannot arise successfully out of the ashes of non-living form inferiorly. We cannot start life from non-life or intelligence from non-intelligence. Okay, so we have man as a transcendent spirit intelligent. Okay, so necessity of a creative, that paragraph is the conclusion, of a creative matching, the complex program of human consciousness, intelligence, and freedom, the will, entails as an unavoidable condition for coming to be a correlative, creative matching in power and perfection. A correlative, creative act matching. That means we cannot explain evolution without affirming that God intervened that. Not only He created, we don't prove the creation here, but we prove that evolution cannot be without an efficient cause that is a creator for us. Okay, so the human first entered the world. The ultimate explanation is a spiritualist explanation, theistic explanation. Okay, so it is only a short presentation of a very complex problem. So no more random, no more by chance, because we need a design. And not by chance, I will give you first evaluation. I will not read that. I will not. Can you distribute that rapidly?